right, guys. So let's go over 34 and 35 from your assignment on Friday. Is that the two of us, 34 and 35?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so on these, it's super important that you draw it out so you can see what it is that you're given. So in 34, if you look, what they're saying is that M is the midpoint of FG. Okay, so what that means then is that if M is the midpoint, what that means is that these two pieces are equal. And in this one, they tell us that from F to M is 5y plus 13. And then this, from M to G, is 5 minus 3y. Okay, and so when we look at this, we did last week, earlier on, if you guys remember, we had times that we knew these two and we knew the whole thing. And what we did is we went this plus this equals the whole thing, and we figured that out. In these problems, they could give you the whole thing, but you don't have to have it. So what they're saying here is these two parts are equal. So to solve it, what you would do is set these two equal to each other. So we would go 5y plus 13 equals 5 minus 3y, okay? And then what we would do is bring our y's to one side, our numbers to the other side. So I'm gonna add 3y. Okay. 5y plus 3y is 8y plus 13 equals 5. And then what we're gonna do is just keep solving that. So I'm gonna subtract 13. And I get that 8y equals a negative 8. Divide by 8. And y is a negative 1. Okay? Now, on your quiz that you guys have, do you have one this week? Oh, I didn't put it up there yet. Didn't I say you have a practice quiz tomorrow and a quiz on Wednesday? So on that, what will happen is that you guys will actually have to find y, and then they'll tell you what else you need to find. Like in this one, they're asking for FG. Now, if you don't have that drawn out, chances are you're just gonna put y into one of these. But in actuality, FG is the whole thing. So what you could do is one of two things. You could put y into 1 and multiply by 2, because those two pieces should be equal. Or you can put y into both of them and add it together, okay? So I think what I'm gonna do is that. I'm not gonna put FG yet. I'm gonna just say, what is FM? And FM is 5y plus 13. And then I'm gonna take this negative 1 and put it in here. So that would be 5 times a negative 1 plus 13, which is 8. Okay, so FM is 8, this whole thing right here. If this is 8, the other thing should be 8. But we can check to make sure and do what is MG, which is 5 minus 3y. So we would take this negative 1 and put it in here. So we'd have 5 minus 3 times a negative 1. And that, you could type it into your calculator exactly how it looks. You could go 5, subtract 3, parenthesis, negative 1, parenthesis, or times negative 1, and you'd get 5 plus 3, which is 8. So now if you notice, FM is 8, MG is 8, and what we want is FG, which is the whole thing, which is 8 plus 8, which is 16. So like on your quiz, they may ask you to write this down on a blank as well as this, or at the very least, they're just gonna ask you this. And if you put it back into the wrong one, you're gonna get the whole question wrong. So that's why I strongly suggest that you draw it out like this. Now, if we look at 35, we have that same scenario where it tells us that M is the midpoint of FG. So M is in the middle, FG is the endpoints. And again, if it's a midpoint, that means those two pieces are equal. Now this one is different. It says from F to M is 3x minus 4. So this right here is 3x minus 4. Then they say, actually, did I assign 36?
I think it's 36.
I meant to do 36
Yeah,
instead
because that
of,
one's different.
okay. Is that okay if I switch and do 36 on this one? Okay. So I'm gonna do 36 instead because that one's different. So from F to M in 36 is 8a plus 1. And then F to G is 42. That is this whole thing. So again, drawing it out helps, okay? Here's the deal in this one. This one, they didn't give us both of these. Instead, what they gave us is one of them and the whole thing, okay? Is there something I could do to say what this is? If this is equal to that, and this is 8a plus 1, what do we think this would be? 8a plus 1. And then I go back to how we learned earlier last week, where we go this plus this equals 42. Okay, then 8a plus 8a is 16a. 1 plus 1 is 2, and that equals 42. Yep.
If you didn't put like both 8a plus 1, you just put 8a plus 1 equals 42, would you do it wrong then?
Yes, because 8a plus, you're saying if you just went 8a plus 1 equals 42? Yeah, because 8a plus 1 is just half of that segment. You could, some kids would say, well, if this is 42 and each of these are equal, wouldn't they each equal 21? Do you guys get that? So if this is 42 and it's cut in half, each of these is going to be 21. So you could go 8a plus 1 equals 21. That would be a shorter way to do it.
So then when you don't have like one of the pieces, or are you always going to have?
Are you always going to have that whole distance? No, like this past one we did, we only knew these two.
Okay, that's right.
And then they're equal. If these two are equal, which they are. Okay, good questions. So now in this one, okay, I added this plus this equals 42. And 8a plus 8a is 16a, 1 plus 1 is 2, and that equals 42. And then if I just keep solving this, that's weird because this is going to give me a decimal. Did I tell you guys that it is a decimal? Okay. So I get 16a equals 40, and then I'm going to divide by 16. And A is, you get 2.5 when you divide that. If you ever get like a decimal that's 0.5 or 0.25 or 0.75, I wouldn't be alarmed. But if you got a really ugly decimal, that doesn't happen much at all in this class. Now, we know what A is. We have to go back and see what they're, and actually in this one, they just asked us for A. So we don't have to put it back in. So that one's just 2.5. Everybody okay with that? Okay. All right, now we're going to go and do our lesson for today. So today we are going to talk about angles and rays, okay? So a ray, when you have a ray, it looks like this. It would have an end point. It would go in any direction. The end point might be A, and you might have several points on this ray, okay? So that's what a ray would look like. When you name a ray, this is important, you don't get to choose any two letters. When you name a ray, you have to start with the end point of the ray and one point on the ray. So it has to start with A, but once I start it with A, I could put AB or AC or AD. The second point doesn't matter as long as it's on that ray. So I'm going to just say AC. Now, regardless what direction that ray is going in, we always draw a ray above this that points to the right, okay? Even if that ray went to the left, it doesn't matter. We always draw the ray above it pointing to the left, or I'm sorry, to the right, okay? Another thing, let me see what else I'm missing here. Could I name this one as ray OP? No, because OP, just so you guys see, when you name a ray, it always has to start at the end point. If I said ray OP, that would just be this much of the segment, okay, or of the ray. So OP, I could do that as long as you realize that's just this amount of the segment of the ray, okay? Now, another thing that will happen today is if you have a straight line, there's two rays that you could name on that line if you have 3 or more points. And what happens is you have one of your rays starting in a point in the middle and going in one direction. So if I was to name this ray, would I name it as JK or KJ? JK. Doesn't J have to come first? Because it's the end point. So in pink, that ray is JK. Then we have a second ray here that starts at J and goes in the opposite direction. Now when I name that one, is it ray HJ or is it ray JH? JH, okay? And that one, even though it's going towards the left, I draw the ray here to the right, okay? What happens with these two rays is they're connected and they just go in opposite directions and form a straight line. So they are called opposite rays. And they're essentially collinear because they're on the same line, okay? Now the second thing that we're going to learn today is about angles. And whenever you guys are given an angle, okay, an angle is really just two rays together, and you'll always be given the point at which those two rays start. So maybe this is A, maybe I have a point here that's C, and maybe I have a point here that's E, okay? Let me grab you the notes from today. Okay, so when you are given a ray, they're gonna ask you today to name the sides as well as the vertex of the angle, okay? The vertex is going to be this point right here that the two rays take off from. So the vertex is always the middle point in the angle, okay? So vertex is just A, okay? Then they're gonna ask you, what are the sides of the angles? Your sides of your angles are gonna be the two individual rays, and you're gonna write them as rays. So if I was writing this ray, would I name it as ray AC or ray CA? AC, very good. And then if I was naming this one, do you guys get that A would have to come first again, and it would be AE. So that's one type of question that you guys are gonna see. They're gonna give you an angle, they're gonna ask you for the vertex, which is kind of that middle point where both rays take off, and then the two rays are the sides, okay? Now, the second thing that we're gonna learn today is how do we name an angle, okay? If you see an angle that is all by itself, which means there's only one angle drawn here, they're not hard to name, okay? So if I look there, another thing that's really nice with angles is sometimes they'll put this number inside of the angle, and you'll really like that because all you have to do there is name that angle 3, and that's a super easy way to name an angle, okay? Now, if you have a single angle drawn there, you can also just say angle and write the vertex, okay? So just call it angle X. Then the third way that you can do this is you can use 3 points on the angle. So I could say angle X, Y, Z, or Z, X, Y. X would have to be in the middle. So angle Y, X, Z, or angle Z, X, Y. And X has to be in the middle. Everybody okay with that? Okay. Now, that is what we do if we have just a single angle drawn there. A lot of times in geometry, however, we won't just have a single angle drawn. Like if you look at this one, if I asked you guys to find the measure of angle Q, you would not know if I meant this angle right here, which I'm gonna call angle 1, this angle right here, which I'm gonna call angle 2, or this whole angle here, which I'm gonna call angle 3. Now, those angles aren't drawn in there, so I can't call it just angle 1. When you don't know which angle you have, and you have a vertex that has more than one angle drawn from it, you have to use 3 letters. So if I was naming angle 1 here, when I name it with 3 letters, which letter has to be in the middle?
Q.
Q, very good. So angle 1, I could name as angle Do you guys get it? Could either be PQS or SQP. Everybody understand that? So I could say PQS or SQP. Q has to be in the middle. All right. Now let's try to name angle 2. Okay. Angle 2, does anyone know one way I could name that?
SQR.
Or?
RQS.
Very good. SQR or RQS. You'd only have to name it one of those ways. Now notice on this one too, Q is in the middle. Okay. Now let's go ahead and name the whole angle 3. Okay. When I go to name this one, I'm doing the entire angle. Does somebody want to give me one way you could do that? PQR. Very good. Or RQP. So notice in all of these, Q is in the middle in every single one. Okay? So when you have multiple angles drawn from the same vertex, you have to use 3 letters unless, let me show you, well, I won't redraw that, unless, say that angle 1 was right there, then you could name this one angle 1. If there was an angle 2 right there, you could name this smaller one angle 2.
So when, like in this one, if it didn't tell you which one to name, you have to name all 3?
No, usually they'll like make reference and ask you to name one of them, and then you would know which one to name. But I don't think there's a problem where you have to name all 3. Okay? All right, another thing that I'm just gonna cover super quickly is there are times where you have an angle, and first of all, you can have points that are on the angle like N, M, and Q, and then you have points that are interior of the angle and exterior of the angle. Interior means inside. Do you guys get that these 2 are inside of that angle? And exterior points are outside of the angle. So that would be like P and O. They're outside of the angle. Interior means inside, exterior means outside. Okay? So now let's go down here. So if I were you, I'd take notes on this in your packet. So here's what your assignment part of it is going to look like today. It says name the vertex of angle 4. Angle 4 is this angle right here. In fact, I can draw over it. Okay, that's angle 4. What is the vertex of the angle? U. It's this point right here, which is U. Very good. Then I'm going to get rid of this. The next one says name the sides of angle 3. Now angle 3 is this angle. Notice the 3 is in between the 2 rays. Now this one wants you to name the sides. When you're naming the sides, it's going to be these 2, okay? So for one of them, it's going to be XW. Do you guys get that? This side, does X have to come first?
Yeah.
It does in a ray, yes, XW. And what could I name the other ray as? XU, very good. So when you name an angle's sides, it's those 2 rays. Then, if we look at the next one, it says, what is the name, what is another name for angle 2? Angle 2 is this angle right here. Okay? So angle 2 would have this as a vertex. And what did you say?
X, Y, U.
Yes, X, Y, U, or U, Y, X. Could we just have called that angle Y? No, because isn't there like 4 different angles that have Y as the vertex? We have to use 3 letters. So again, when I do that, I could say angle XYU or angle, and I could go UYX. Now, honestly, when I have kids do this, a lot of them struggle with which angle is angle 2. And that's why I suggest that you kind of color in that, or like draw what that angle is so that it helps you. Now this one asks us, what's another name for angle UXY? Oops. UXY is this angle right here, okay? What's one name for that? Probably the easiest way would be,
Is it Z and Z?
you could, yep, Z, X, U. So Z, X, U is one way. Could I have gone Y, X, U also? I could. I could use either of these two. So I could do Y, X, U. Anyone see another way I could do that?
U, X,
UXY,
Y. U, X, Z.
UXZ. Notice in all 4 of these what my vertex is, what that middle letter is. Now, does anyone see an easier way that we could have done that? Angle what? 1, yes. If you have this number in between there, that's the easiest way to name it, is just say angle 1. Okay, but all of these are absolutely fine. You just have to name it one of the ways. Now, when we look at this one, first of all, I want to point out this line right here should be a straight line, and I think when I cut and pasted, it kind of got distorted. So think of this line right here as being a straight line. So here's a map of a high school, and it says, name all angles that have B as the vertex. Okay, here's B, right here. What's one angle that has B as the vertex?
ABD.
ABD, very good. A, and I covered up B, but B is right here. Yes, ABD is 1. We're naming this angle right here, right now.
Do we have to like do it in the other ways too, like where it could be DBA?
Yeah, no, good question. If it says name all angles, you would name one angle one way,
Okay.
and then go to the next angle and name it one way, okay? Do you guys get that we still have this angle right here, right? So angle B as a vertex could be this angle, or it could be this angle, okay? How could I name that angle?
Oh wait, no.
It's like this.
Oh, oh yeah.
So what could I do? What did you say?
Angle 2.
Angle 2 would be the easiest, right? Could I name this first one as angle 1? Yeah. So if I were you guys, if there was ever a number in there, I would use that. It's just the easiest. So this could also have been angle 1, and then this one is angle 2, which we can name as angle 2, or I could have named it as angle DB and then any of these 3 points here. So I could have said DBC, DBK, DBL, and then if I named it the other way and started here, I could have chosen any of these 3. So I could have done angle CBD, KBD, or LBD. Okay? B would have to be in the middle there though. I'm gonna say just DBC down here. Whoops. But again, you only need one of these 2 ways. Okay? So you don't have to name each angle every way that you can. Now it says name the sides of angle 3. So angle 3, this is one of the sides, and this is the other side. Do you guys get that it's that angle right there? Okay. To name the sides, you name them as a ray. If I was naming this ray from C through B to A, when I name that ray, which point has to come first? C, right? So I'm going to name that as ray CB. Okay, which also could have been named, just so you know, as CA. That would have been fine. How would I name this ray over here? This ray here?
C.
CE, very good. And so they want both of them. If they have multiple ways to name them, you only have to do one of the ways. Now it says, what is another name for angle GHL? Okay. GHL starts here and goes like this. It's this angle right here. This doesn't have arrows on it, but you can assume it does. Okay? What's one way to rename that? What's an easy way?
Angle 7.
Angle 7. That's what I would do. Or they said GHL, you could have done LHG. Very good. Angle 7. Then it says name a point in the interior of angle DBK. All right. So DBK is this. And again, imagine this is all a straight line here. Now, we don't want to look for points that are on the angle. We want to point inside the angle because it said interior. What point is inside of that? E. So this is our big angle. E is inside of that angle. So our answer is E. Okay. Now, we're going to look at a protractor.
Are we doing this whole packet today?
We were going to. Should we stop?
Yeah.
I could do that. I could stop here, give you an assignment for what I taught, and then finish it tomorrow. That would push our practice quiz to Wednesday and our quiz to Thursday. Want to do that?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it. So it'll just take me a second to come up with your assignment. So give me a second to do that. I was halfway thinking that I might cut this in half, so we will do that. Don't copy this yet, you guys, because this would be if we were doing the entire thing, and we're not, so just don't write anything yet. Wiz, could you flip on that front light over there? Thank you.
Is that it?
No.
I'm sorry.
Nope, you're good. I think I'll just do this for today. All right?
Thank you.
Who's Bond? Can I have some more water?